Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for joining me. This is Mara Grushanek. I'm the Family Engagement Coordinator at Stevenson High School, and I'm so happy that you're joining me today to talk about developing a strong relationship with your teen. What we're going to talk about today is from the Search Institute. It is a framework for how families can best support their teens, and I really like it because it's pretty comprehensive. It's beyond looking at your teen and saying, hey, gee, I really love you, which is not ever a bad thing to say. But how do you sort of support your whole teen, right? All the developmental facets of your teen, knowing that we kind of, when our kids are, especially in high school, that's what I focus on. They're going through a developmental time, adolescence, that lasts from about 12 to 14 to about 25. Their brains are not fully developed until they're 25. And remember that our brains develop from the back to the front. And so when they're adolescents, that last 10 years, there's a lot of things going on in our teens' brains. And so, being affectionate and telling our teens that we love them is never a bad idea, but there are so many different parts to a developmental relationship. Key ideas that we need to do with our teens to really help them develop as fully as possible and help them in the developmental process so that they can become the best person they can be. Primarily around that, we do things like express care. I love you. I think you're great, terrific. Show me I matter to you. We challenge them to grow and be the best they can, provide support for them, expand their possibilities, like what can they do, where can they go, who do they know, those kinds of things. And then, of course, which is really tough for a lot of people, share power. So we allow them to make some ideas to have power in the relationship and make decisions, but in a really, really supportive way. And so let's take a look at each of them. So how do I, as an adult in my teen's life, how do I express care? Well, you walk up, hug them, I love you, you matter to me. But also, are you someone that your teen can depend upon? Of course, we all feel that we are. How do you listen? Do you really pay attention to them when they come to you to have a communication, some kind of communication with you? Do you put everything away? Do you listen with your eyes, looking at them? Are you really listening to them? Are you trying to empathize with them to hear what they're saying to you and how they're saying it? And are you giving them all of your attention, or are you sort of like listening to them as you're doing something else? Do you really make them feel like valued and known? And a lot of that can come through the way you have conversations with your teen, which is not to say that every single time your teen walks up and talks to you, you have to put everything down and look at them, but you know your teen really well. And if they're talking to you about something that's really important to them, are you listening and letting them know, hey, I see you, I value you, I care about you, I remember what you're interested in, I remember who your friends are and what they said. Or if you're going through a transition in friends, I know what's happening. Do I schedule like time with you just to be with you, just to get to know your teens? Remember, this is this is a time of a lot of developmental change in our teens. And we really want to know, who are they? What are they into? What do they like? That will help with conversations in the future. And do we, if they try something new, even if it doesn't go the way they want to, have we praised them and said, hey, wow, I'm really encouraged about what you've done. And I really think that the way you handled that was really cool. Or I'm really happy you put all of your time, a lot of effort into that, even if it didn't work out the way I wanted it, or you wanted it to. When they're thinking about right now at Stevenson, our students are choosing classes. Are we challenging their growth? Are we saying to them, hey, why don't you try that class that you thought you might be interested? we're 3/4 or 2/3 of the way into our semester. Are we challenging their growth academically? Are we helping them think about how can I manage myself, manage my classes, and do the best I can? Are we helping them find times for homework so that they can do the best that they can? Remember, it's about them and what they want. Are we holding them accountable to what they say they're going to do? Or I'm going to, I don't know, clean up around the house or help you or contact a family member or a friend. Are you holding them accountable for what they say they're going to do, and holding them responsible for things that they do that may not turn out the way that they wanted to? And when they do something that is not what they thought was going to happen, if I'm the teen, if I try something, or if I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it or whatever, am I being held accountable for that? Am I thinking about what are you as the adult in their life helping your teen think about what went well, what did you do well, what went the way you didn't anticipate it happening, which is better than saying when you failed. How did things not go the way you thought they were going to go, and what could you do differently next time? That reflection process is so important for our teens, so that they're sort of not in that repetitive, gee, I wonder what's going on, with you as the adult in their life, helping them think about what did I do, what did I not do, what could I have done better, and providing that support for them. Then they can reflect on what can I do differently next time. When I'm going through a difficult time as a teen, who am I going to look to? I'm going to look to the adults in my life who have had experience, who love me despite anything, who can say to me, hey, what went well? What didn't go well? How can I help you through this point? Not taking the responsibility from you and doing it for you, so that it becomes sort of this, I don't know, the adult in my life helped, my parent or guardian helped me through that. I don't know how they navigated this. But if you do it with them, if you say, like, let's take a look at what can happen, and you help them navigate and empower them to do it on their own, it's really a great experience. That's not to say that you just say, hey, go do this. You can help advocate for them. If they're going through something at school, you can always call or text the counselor and say, hey, my student is going through this. They're going to come in and help. They're going to come in and talk to you. But this is the advice and the guidance I've given them. Always let your student know if you're contacting their teacher or their counselor. Do it as a collaborative thing, not behind their back, because what you want to do, no matter what, is be there, be support for them, and build trust with your teen so that they know you are there unconditionally. Of course, your teen is going to want to try on a lot of hats. And one of the ways that you can provide support is to set appropriate boundaries for them. There are reasons that we have the values and the rules we have in our house, and I expect you to live by them. I love you unconditionally. I will talk to you about the rationale for those boundaries and for those expectations, but those are there because that is part of what our family does. Along the idea of those boundary settings is that idea of sharing power. How do we do that? That doesn't mean that your teen figures out when they want to come home. What that means is that I treat you with respect, you treat me with respect. When there are decisions to be had or to be made, include your teen on the discussion around those decisions. It doesn't mean that you're ceding power to them. It means you're including them in on the power so that they are really part of that decision-making process, so that when they're on their own, they have had practice in considering the things that you consider when you make decisions. What we want to do during the teen years and during this part of adolescence is to help our teens practice making those adult type decisions that they're going to have to make on their own. We want to work collaboratively with them to make decisions and help sort of uncover or make it transparent, that decision-making process that you go through when you do things, so that you're not answering necessarily to your teens for why things are happening, but you are making it much more overt and transparent to them, so that eventually you can say to them, hey, what would you like to do? Tell me what your thinking on that is, so that they can take the lead and they can practice making those decisions with you as the guide on the side for them. The other thing that you can do with your teens is you can do something around expanding their worlds, expanding possibilities, inspiring them to think about what they can do. You know, it's just like any of us. If you have a mentor at work or a friend who really encourages you to try new things, when we're comfortable and we're with our friends and we're kind of looking around us and we're trying to figure out, who am I? What do I want to do? Having someone like a trusting adult to expand our possibilities and encourage us and say, no, try that, see what you can do, and not have that sort of judgment that maybe they might be worried about having if they don't have friends that do it. That's a really good thing to help your teen say, hey, no, go try that new club. Or, yes, I think you should try that new class. Or I noticed that you're into a new subject matter. I have a friend who does that. Let me introduce you to them so that you can talk to them about what they do. Now we're rolling into a lot of time for family with Thanksgiving and all the different winter holidays that have come on. If you are someone, I'm not sure if Diwali is still being celebrated, but as people are coming together for all the different winter holidays, family, friends, if you know your teen is even the slightest bit interested in something, maybe reach out to a person that you know that you're going to see over the holidays and say, hey, do you mind if I mention to my teen that you do this? And then you make that introduction. Hey, did you know that this person in our lives is interested or does this thing that you kind of mentioned you were interested in? And connect them, introduce them to the people around them that do the things that they might be interested in. And in that way, then you also become this great source of information for them. Or even if you don't know them, look online with them, spend some time online and say, hey, let's look together and find out information on what you might want to know more about. So what I want to share with you also is I'm going to put this in. This is a developmental framework from the Search Institute. And I'm going to put this link into the notes from today, into the chat. I have downloaded it from the Search Institute. If you are watching this not live and you are online, you can go to the Search Institute and look up Developmental Relationships Framework, and you will see this exact same framework. But what it does is it outlines those 5 different areas that we just discussed. The first being expressing care, show me that I matter to you. Challenging growth, push me to do the very best I can and push me to keep getting better. Provide support for me unconditionally. Share power with me. Help me try to figure out how to make those decisions and how do I become an adult. And then lastly, expand possibilities. Introduce me to the people that maybe I don't know, or experiences that I may not have had, or just look online with me and help me consider different possibilities that I may not have otherwise. I want to thank you very much for joining me today and talking about a developmental framework for supporting your teens. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about how do we connect with our teens. Oh my goodness, teens are going through so much right now developmentally. They are almost developing more than when they were young children and toddlers. And so if you can imagine all the stuff that's going on in their heads, how do we as the adults in their lives connect with them? We're going to talk about some strategies around doing that tomorrow at noon. I want to thank you very much for joining me today to talk about developmental relationships. I hope you have gotten something out of this, and I hope I get to see you again tomorrow. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye, everyone.